Hello, everybody joining us virtually. We'll start momentarily. Hopefully, you can see the screen I'm sharing. If not, feel free to use the question and answer since chat is disabled. Thank you for joining us today.
Are you speaking to them now?
Yeah, I'm talking to the virtual
Okay,
crowd.
I was gonna say we can't hear you.
Yeah, it's
That's okay.
not crazy.
Now I know. Now I know. Thank you.
I have to take care of both my in-persons and the virtual folks.
So far, so good.
Oh, thanks for the confirmation that it looks good on both ends. Okay, we'll start in a few minutes. I got a microphone if that helps. Usually about 45 minutes, 50 minutes.
Okay.
Never really goes over an hour unless there's a lot of good questions.
Sorry. It's a 2 to 4 up there. It's like a.
Oh, we block it off for cleaning and all that.
That's funny.
Wouldn't that be great?
I scared you there for a minute.
We loop you in with a 1 hour promise and then bam.
That was good, except I told somebody I'd meet them at 4. Okay, I need to just warn them now, I'm not coming.
After this, we're gonna go preserve and clean some stuff and take care of business. Ooh, I get to be a tour guide.
Yeah.
There's a handout in the back if y'all want it. Back table there. There's also some other stuff to learn about from the department. You can sign up for passports if you aren't signed up already. Does this work? Is it working? Okay. You think it's good or well, it sounds good. Is that thunder? You ought to hear in the summer when all the kids are out, the play area is right above us. And so it sounds like it's constantly thundering.
I didn't know, so there's actually, I didn't know there was a flight.
Oh yeah, there's a little mini village up there inside the kids area where you can slide down things.
Okay.
Yeah, my kiddos love it. Except when there's too many people, then they go, "Can we come back another time?"
Yeah.
Like, yeah, can we?
We've got like a whole village built in, fire department, a bakery, a veterinary office, a grocery store.
It's very like the Magic House or the old Magic
Yeah,
House.
it's really cool.
Because I know the Magic House went and changed a little bit.
Yeah.
Starting very soon. All right, 2:00. I'm going to start the program now. Thank you for attending both in person and virtually. I'm going to dedicate my attention both ways. So my name is Brent Trout. I'm with the History and Genealogy Department, and we're going to talk about what happens when things smell like basement. Sometimes attic too, but mostly basement. So it's all about preserving family treasures. I kind of got the idea for this because my grandparents passed away and we had to clean their house out and everything did smell like basement because that's like a good Midwesterner. They kept their stuff in the basement, all sorts of stuff. So afterwards, it dawned on me, how do we actually get this smell out and how should we preserve things in the future? So let me go a little bit about me. I am the department manager of the History and Genealogy Department. So we are upstairs on the second floor if you'd like to visit us in person. And I actually spent over a decade working in museums. We never had a microphone that looked like this, so it's kind of weird to me. So I worked in both underfunded and funded museums. So one of the things I like to do when I do these programs is I could easily go, hey, you need to go out and buy all these museum supplies. Well, whenever you say something's archival quality or museum supplies, it often kind of like the organic label sometimes, where it's like an extra $10 or $5. So I try to find things that will actually help you that are affordable and find solutions to doing things where we don't have to pay. So my museums have always loved me because my first museum, we had no money. So I figured out how to do lots of things. And they're like, man, if we could just find cheaper ways to do Brent things, this would be great. So I graduated from a public history program. This is where I learned a lot of my basic preservation skills, and then nothing that prepared me for the actual field other than being in it. I've also done presentations and preservation archival classes. I'm certified in graveyard cemetery upkeep and cleaning. So yeah, so we do this because I'm so glad this is becoming more relevant now. Nothing lasts forever, not even the cold November rain, right? So all of your family treasures and artifacts are deteriorating right now. You may not know this, but they are. They're sitting at home waiting for you to come home and take care of them. So after this, please don't get in a traffic accident. Drive home as fast as you possibly can. Let's take care of our stuff. So yes. So disclaimer here, these are just suggestions. These are things that I used in the field. Like I said, we didn't always have enough money to do things. So you can always throw money at a problem, right? And it probably will work better than throwing no money at it. But these are just solutions that will make what you're doing better and will make the case of what you're doing to your artifacts or not doing to your artifacts a better situation. Now, if there is something, if you have, I don't know, the first Gutenberg Bible at home, sitting in a box in the basement, and you want to preserve it and conserve it, take it somewhere. If it's something that's going to be worth thousands upon thousands of dollars, don't do it yourself, just like anything else, right? There is YouTube for just about everything. That's how I repair all my stuff at home, but there's really not a good YouTube for doing this stuff for stuff that's millions of dollars. So I always like to give a to-do list of what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the agents of deterioration. So I'm just going to break down a little bit of the science behind why you're smelling some stuff, what you'll see. We're going to talk about the environment. So the biggest thing, the lowest cost, biggest thing you can do right now to preserve your family treasures is keep your environment fresh. So make sure that you don't have any huge temperature fluctuations. Now, if my family was here, they'd be like, you keep the thermostat too high? Yeah, okay, I'm guilty. So you want to keep it at a certain relative humidity, and you want to keep it at a certain temperature. You do not want to store things in the basement. You do not want to store things in the attic. You want to keep them in the level area. Some things need to be in darkness, some things don't. Now, digitization is so readily available that this is the number one thing you can do to preserve memories. I'm not saying preserve the items, I'm saying preserve the memories. So let's just say, like, you go home and you have a picture of your great-great-grandmother next to your coffee table, whatever, your chair. If that's the original, take it out. Go ahead and digitize that. Put the original somewhere in a sleeve, darkness, and put a copy out there so the copy can deteriorate. So light is destroying artifacts. So in the artifact world, we would have to go around with swabs and see what kind of lux damage we were taking in from lights. And that's why if you go to a lot of museums, they're dark usually, and sometimes they rotate things around every 6 months to a year because we can only let damage happen so long. And even in filtered environments, LED lights have very low lux. LED lights are better for your artifacts and for your family treasures than anything else. They still will deteriorate items. We're going to talk about defunking. So some quick tips on how to get rid of smells and pests, because both of those are coming for your artifacts. Smells a little bit easier to take care of than pests, but the actual mold will stay around forever if you don't actually change the environment. We're going to talk about flattening and humidification. So one of the things I see a lot is that, let's say one of your ancestors was in World War I. They usually got a certificate that's like this long. It's rolled up in a tube and you forgot about it for 100 years. Well, if you try to open that now, you're going to crack it apart. So we're going to introduce humidity back into it. We're going to get the humidity up, and then actually it's going to absorb that so you can flatten it and then hang it or do whatever you want with it. And most importantly, digitization. So if you're not familiar with this, the Memory Lab upstairs is the place where you as a patron can come and digitize all your family treasures. So you can take in photos, slides, negatives, 8mm, VHS, cassette tapes, video cassette tapes, more and more. And if we don't have it, usually you can kind of go, hey, it'd be really great if y'all had this. And if I get 10 of y'all to say that, then I can go, the people want this. And that's what we are. We're a people wanting place. So we're here to help. So First thing, most treasures you will come across are paper. I mean, that's as simple, right? Paper is something we've been dealing with for thousands of years now. And it's interesting because our old paper, by the way, was amazing. So your vellum and all these things that were made from animal skins, incredible durability. It's really when we get into the late 1800s that we start making really bad paper. And so one thing that I see a lot with patrons coming into Memory Lab, bless all of you, scrapbooks. And what do you have in the scrapbooks? Newspaper. Newspaper obviously is a business, right? They printed on the cheapest possible paper they can get a hold of. And so you see, if you go find a paper that you've had for 25 years right now, I bet it's really yellow and it's dry. They're not designed to last that long. So this is why you want to digitize these things. So brief overview, 17th and 18th century, the paper makers were using rags and linen to make paper. So this is why we have some really amazing durability. This is one of the reasons why I like the independence is still around, or the Constitution, you can still see the actual documents besides the preservation. It's actually in the 19th century that wood pulp is introduced into paper making. And so wood pulp is acidic by nature. So as that acidic stuff starts breaking down the various things inside the cell walls of that paper, that's when you start getting deterioration happening. So I'll say this all the time, make sure it's acid free, make sure it's this. Surprisingly, nowadays, our paper is, a lot of it, if it says acid free, they've treated it. They treat it with some kind of alkaline material that will make it last, if you take care of it, for 1,000 years. So if I can last just as long as that, I'm really happy about that. So we have chlorine bleach, they make the paper white. Like I said, they usually put some kind of carbonate in there to help balance the alkaline deterioration. Also, there are chemicals in the paper during these periods that off gas. So this is something that's very important. So this is one of my biggest pieces of advice. If you go home, everybody did this like from the 50s until the 80s. They put their photos in those sleeves that just stuck on there, and now you go to try to pull them out and you can't do it. Use the smell test. If you were to put your photos in something, if it smells toxic, guess what? It's toxic. So you want to get polyethylene, polypropylene, and I actually have examples of what you can find up there. Now, if you find the versions of that is archival quality, it's going to be expensive. If you just look for those sleeves, you're going to find cheaper versions once they put that archive word on there. Now, all the materials right here are just examples of what you can get and things that I use. I got that all off Amazon. Now, I hate to endorse Amazon because we don't need to, but it was really convenient. I'm sorry. I do have morals. All right. So, and remember, acid can be transferred from item to item. So as those papers break down, so if you take one newspaper that is turning yellow, which by the way, that's acid taking over the paper. If you put that on something that has not been acidified, kind of a word, I guess, you're spreading the acid. So that's why you need to use buffer sheets if you decide to put them together. So you will see acid-free sheets. They're called buffer sheets, buffer pages. You will see those where you put those in between things. It's an easy way to store things, and you should always consider doing that. And I mean anything made of paper at this point, like photographs that have paper backing, definitely consider be using that. So environmental factors. Humidity is one of the biggest factors. So the National Archives says anything over 60% is going to be negative per paper and for pretty much just about anything. I love the federal government and the federal people just as much as anybody else, but don't go above 55. It's scientifically proven that mold likes to grow in 55% or more. So keep your relative humidity down. And you can actually buy a very cheap measuring tool. I keep these in all the rooms in our office so we can see what humidity is. I think we paid $7, tells us temperature and the relative humidity. So fluctuating temperatures, spiking, also promote growth of mold and attract bugs. You want to keep a consistent thing going on there. And I'll give you the actual temperature readings in a little bit. Also light. So you want to cover lighting. So if you have, you want to get up in the morning and be bathed in the light of the sun, that's great. Your artifacts don't like that. So make sure that either you're in a room with very minimal lighting coming from the sun, or you're putting UV filters over your windows in the places. So if you have, your own little personal archive or all your trophies from all of, I really bowled well back in the 90s. If I were to have a trophy room, let's put a UV filter on there. And so, like I said, LED lights are going to emit less lux than anything. So think of switching to LED lighting. So at home, if you have that stereotypical mantle and the fireplace that's beautiful, and you have a photo of your ancestor or a painting of your ancestor from the 1700s, put an LED light on there, Don't put any natural light on it. So Paper can pick up an odor. Your artifacts can pick up an odor, and there are different things that you can kind of detect by the way it smells. All right. So one of the things that you will see primarily in older documents, and I mean older documents as in probably up until the 1850s when paper quality starts changing, is what's called foxing. And I love finding out things where people 100% don't know the truth about it. So right now, there's still a debate going on in the preservation community. What is foxing? Is it mold, or is it the actual metal elements in paper oxidizing? And so there are tiny little metal particles in older paper, and it's actually, in my belief, that it's oxidizing. And here's why. Because I can put a fresh sheet of paper on top of any foxing, and it will never transfer. So if it was mold to me, the mold would pick up and go over there. I believe this is the oxidation of the metal in there. So it does not migrate in my experience. Your conservation efforts, by the way, I'll say this later. I was a former teacher. I'm going to keep repeating things. That means it's really important to me and should be important to you. Preservation, conservation. So you're going to do things at home to preserve your family memories. Do not conserve your family memories. So conserving is fixing problems that could have been prevented with preservation. Preservation is causing no problems to begin or lessening the problems that appear. So always take preservation efforts. Hire someone who's a professional, not me, to do conservation for you. Shop around though, because they do charge a lot. So paper from the 1500s show little foxing, if at all. As I said, as you start getting into the 1600s, 1700s, it starts appearing. So at some point in history, we started having those metal things in paper, and then it went away by the mid 1800s, which I hope we all have documents from the 1500s at home. You know. So acid migration, it's very important. Any paper made from wood pulp will be acidic. It's just a fact of life. Now you can put barriers in there. As I said, modern paper, they're putting some alkaline material in there. They estimate that paper will not acidify for 1,000 years. I mean, who's going to be around to call them out in their bluff? So as the breakdown of lignin happens in the natural cell walls of the paper, that is when the paper deteriorates and the acid takes over. And so that's what happens as that breaks down. As I said, modern papers are becoming more and more acid-free, but acid can still spread through contact and through the gassing process. So believe it or not, things just sit around degassing chemicals off of things. So I lost my sense of smell during COVID. I still do not have it. It's awful. So I'll never get to the big leagues again. So if you ever smell these things, not that I can smell them anymore, if you start smelling a sweet almond, that is the smell of the cellulose of the paper breaking down. So if you start smelling those sweet books, as in they smell sweet, that's what it is. Vanilla smell. I don't know if you've ever smelled a book that smells like vanilla. Yeah, that's the lignin breaking down. Now, the one that I always see is the old room smell. That's the only way I can describe it. You know, you're at an antique store, you pick it up. It's probably a new place you've been to. Still smells like 500 years. That's the hexanol. That's breaking down in there. So mold mildew has a different smell, as you're probably aware of. You probably have all smelled mold or mildew in your life. That is different than these. So, and you treat these in different ways. Knowing that the paper is breaking down in that case, the environment is the best thing you can do. Now, if you have mold, we're going to talk about mold remediation. To a clicker that doesn't work. So if you have mold and mildew, I'm going to promise you right now, I'm an honest person. You can try lots of things. It probably won't go away. The best you can hope for is to make it stop. Not go away, just make it stop spreading. So if you have a walk-in freezer at home, this is the best case scenario. I don't know anybody who has a walk-in freezer, even though we're out here in Frontenac. So if you have a deep freeze, it works. Clear some space in your freezer, wrap the item in freezer paper, and put it in the freezer for 3 days. So that is going to kill off any mold that is currently growing on there. Now, keep in mind, you do not want to do this with active mold. So if the mold is wet to the touch, wait till it is not active anymore. Let's not put anything active in there. Even though we'll kill it, we don't want to do it that way. You also want to get a vacuum. And I don't mean get the Oric out. I mean, get a tiny vacuum. You can get a variable speed vacuum with a screen on it. And the reason why I say screen is that you don't want to accidentally vacuum your paper away. So you want to be gentle about this. So get a natural bristle brush, and I mean like a paintbrush. take the vacuum to it after you take it out of the freezer. Please let it thaw for a little bit. You don't want to shock it, by the way. I don't mean take it out to 110 Missouri day. Put it in your house, let it acclimate to that. Then take it outside if you want that natural light. Obviously, if it's really old, don't put no natural light on it. I wouldn't do that. Use a vacuum with adjustable screen or adjustable speed. Make sure you have a screen or at least a cheesecloth. Yes, I do have a cheesecloth at home. You put it over there to make sure you're not vacuuming any serious things from the actual material. That way, if you had to, you could take it out and say, hey, conservator, I accidentally vacuumed up this important page with all of my family's life insurance. I don't know. So once it is taken care of, don't listen to the National Archives one time in your life. Make sure it's under 55% relative humidity. I promise you, mold grows over 55%. National Archive will say 60%, 55% or under. And like I said, you can easily, now if you have an old house, yes, it's going to be hard, but you can get the little thermometers for each room. Okay, so let's say it smells. I can't tell you how many times I've done this in my life. Guess what we do here occasionally? So some people really like to get these old books, and you know what they do? I swear they smoke a carton and a half of cigarettes in 2 days. And we get them back and we go, whoa! So we have our defunking chamber, we call it. We usually play Red Hot Chili Peppers while we're doing it. And we put, so you can see here, it's nothing you can't get from the store, by the way. It's a Rubbermaid tote. We have a milk crate in there. Let's see if my laser pointer works. All right, so if you look right here, and I'm sorry, virtual people, I can't laser pointer you. If you look at the bottom of my milk crate, you will see a bag filled with stuff. So we use everything from kitty litter, volcanic rock. There's something on Amazon called the Gonzo odor remover. I like it. And then we also use charcoal. Now, I want to tell you a personal story. It involves a patron. I advise a patron to do this. So if you are ever unsure how to do anything, please don't just go for it. Call somebody. We're here. I'm here every day. I feel like I'm here every day, at least 6 days a week. So I'm not going to name the patron, but the patron's like, oh, I'm going to build one of these funk chambers. And I'm like, that's a great name for it. Get you a funk chamber. They went to Lowe's and picked up some volcanic rock. I'm so proud of you right now. Here's the problem. They got it from the outside, and it had rained for 4 straight days before they bought it. They took it home. That rock absorbed that water. So when they put it in there, it just unleashed all this water. And they came in and said, all my documents are ruined. All my photos are ruined. Your advice. And I said, nay, not today. I said, I told you, do not get anything that's been rained on. Get something from the indoors. Also, you've got to be casual about this. Don't just throw it all in there at one time. I felt really bad for the person. Everything was all right. By the way, your photos get wet, they can dry, they'll survive. Most photos will. It might separate a little bit. So very easy. And like I said, we do this all the time for smoky stuff. Put some kind of solution. And you can see here, this bag, we just poke holes in there. Put something on top of it, put the materials, and then put a lid on there. Let it sit in there for about 36 hours. It'll smell better. If it isn't gone all the way, guess what? 36 more hours. Now you're saying, wait a second, guy. Rubbermaid toast not archival quality. Okay, so you got to live with it. Either you're going to damage it for 72 hours, or you're going to smell like a carton of cigarettes. It's lesser of two evils, right? By the way, we've been mistreating our family treasures for at least 60, 70 years. What's a couple more days? So you can build this easily at home. You can use all those things. I'm just going to say this because I'm being recorded, and I have many witnesses. Do not go to the hardware store and buy rock that's been rained on for several days at a time. Please buy the rock from the inside. All right. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. So those are only library books that I illustrated there, but the process is the same for your stuff at home. Now, obviously, when you're making this, I told you about acid. I told you about mold growth. Don't just willy-nilly toss things in there. Also, use buffering sheets. Use absorption layers. So you can get spun polyester is a blotter paper that we'll use. We'll actually sandwich things in between spun polyester. So when it pulls off some of that moisture out of it, it will actually absorb there. So it won't just go all over the stuff. It's a good way to buffer out. And as I said, please do not do this when documents are wet. You don't want to make other documents wet. This isn't going to dry it out. This is just going to defunk it a little bit. Also, you can actually find an acid-free bin to use. we're not dealing with rare library books. These are ones that are circulated all the time. I have some Switzerland books from the 1500s. I would never use that setup for them. I'm going to use a different setup. Actually, we're going to pay people because they are very rare, like one of a kind. And I mean, could you imagine if the public saw me like just tossing some 1500-year-old books in there? It'd be great. So things to not do. If you've ever been to one of my gravestone cleaning classes, this is the same message. Don't ever expect that your books are going to smell brand new like they're off the shelf. They won't ever. I told you, they're breaking down. You're going to have sweet vanilla smell. You're going to have funky smell. You're going to have all sorts of things. Don't expect that the mold will not return or be gone forever if you treat it. That's the thing, is that I want to say that you'll get rid of the mold, and if you had lots of time and money, you would. But in these home remedies, you're just stopping the growth. This is mostly what you can get. You're going to see microspores. You can't see the microspores that are there that you're going to be missing. But by doing the freeze treatment and then getting off the bulk of the growth, you really are mitigating the damage. Also, all the time I say this, don't ever think this is a one and done process. So conservation and preservation is an ongoing thing. So every day we're treating something else. Sometimes we treat things all the time. It's like my little kid who's like, I got to go to school today. And I'm like, I got to go to work today. Guess what? We got lots of years of this. Let's do this. So do not assume that the material that you're doing is safe to freeze. Anything I tell you to do treatment-wise, don't assume it's safe until you test it on something similar. So if you're going to toss in, I don't know, a pair of Elvis's jeans in the freezer to treat them, maybe put a pair of your own jeans in there to make sure it's going to survive, obviously. And don't rely on freezing as a routine solution for this. So you can actually damage things by freezing them, unfreezing them, freezing them, doing that over and over. So I say this because I know I have some people that would be on a routine schedule. They'd have their iPhone programmed to be like, oh, it's the third Friday of the month. Let's put the things in the freezer. There we go. Which I salute those folks because they're on top of the game. So store your stuff in a stable environment, 68 to 75 degrees. So energy costs are rising. So try to keep it in that range there. This is and I say this is pretty much a bulk temperature for most of your stuff. If you wanted to get really good, your photographs should be usually around 38 to 40. So like I said, if you got that walk-in refrigerator at home that you can dedicate to your photographs, by all means. So 68 to 75 degrees, your relative humidity, 30 to 50%. And I put NARA has 15, National Archives, 15 to 65%. This is the one time we're not going to listen to them. Why don't we keep it like 40? Let's just agree to each other. Make sure you store your stuff in sealed containers that are acid-free and archival, and interweave that acid buffering papers to discourage mitigation. Actually, it's migration. Why did I say mitigation? Anyhow, so you will have to buy supplies. You can actually find some really, like I said, they're making bulk of acid-free paper now. You can find acid-free tissue paper. You can find an acid-free wrapping paper that you could actually use in a pinch that will help you out. Just be creative. And like I said, always attempt preservation, seldomly attempt conservation. Like I said, these are easy things that you can do tonight after you drive home in traffic to do this right away to protect your artifacts and all those things going forth. Conservation is a whole nother, there are people that train their whole lives to do this. These are the people that are working on the Mona Lisa, It's always better to blame somebody if they mess your stuff up than yourself, because you'll live with it for day and night. At least you can point the finger. So let's focus on, I like things that I can control. So once again, let's reiterate. No higher than 70 degrees if you can, but 75 is the cap. In general, for just about every artifact in the world, the lower the temperature, the better, until you get to freezing. So let's say 40 degrees is a good threshold in there. Humidity, like I said, 30 to 50%. You want to stop the fluctuations. So if, let's say, and by no means, if you go home and it's like, I have it at 76. He said the cap was 75. What am I going to do? Don't do that. So just think about this. For every 5 degrees that the temperature goes up past these thresholds, the reaction time for deterioration doubles. And this is actually something they've discovered in research. They haven't figured out the foxing thing yet, but they figured this out. Avoid water. So we live in the Midwest. So I moved back here. I grew up here. I moved to Florida. Hurricanes all the time. It was great. It wasn't great. Here we have tornadoes and just flash flooding. Water's everywhere, right? Planet's all covered in it. Plan for flooding. Even if you live on the tallest hill ever, plan that you're going to have a water line break one day. And how are you going to have things sealed? You should have things sealed. Just don't have it willy-nilly. And I promise you, like, you should consider the things that are most valuable to you. Digitize those first. Just digitize this stuff. Store it on a cloud somewhere, and we can talk about that. Store it on a cloud, have it in a go bag. So let's, if you don't know what a go bag is, you should have a bag wherever your coat is. Now, if you have a nice coat tree, don't put it underneath it, put it in the closet. You should have a bag that you can grab when your house is on fire that's going to contain, like, basic credit card to live on, change of underwear, your family treasures, things that are important to you. So think about having some of those things in those situations. So me living in Florida with multiple hurricanes, I had a go bag. It had consisted of all the photos that are old in my family that I haven't digitized yet. And we had to grab those several times. There's me running out of the house in a panic with a shoebox full of old photos, acid-free shoebox, and my bag. So think about that. It's not about when something's going to happen, or if something's going to happen. It's about when something's going to happen, because life's unpredictable. So I don't know if y'all know this. We call people bookworms. That's actually because there are bookworms. Like, there are worms that will live in books. And believe me, books can get lice. They don't live very long. They can get mites. All the things you don't know about a public library. So, now I'm not saying we have fresh books here. I'm not saying this so you're like questioning our books here. But I deal in old books. So sometimes people will donate books to us. And, we don't just open it up and go, oh, yeah, we don't have this one. We have to open it up and go, is this going to infest our collection? And if it is a one-of-a-kind book and it has some life on it, that's when we have to take action. So it's a similar method. Wrap it in archival safe plastic. You can use freezer paper as well. Freeze it for 48 hours. Remove it and keep it in that bag. So you're creating an environment in that bag. Refreeze it again for 48 hours. You are now going to kill everything that's in there. Leave it to defrost for 24 hours. Remove it and clean it. Same method as you did the mold and the mildew. Make sure you make sure all those bugs are gone and all those eggs are gone. And it doesn't hurt to refreeze it right again after this. Now, keep in mind, these are books. Books are going to usually be more durable. If it is the first edition of the Gutenberg Bible, please call a professional. I say this so you won't sue me. Please don't sue me. So let's talk about the rolled images, because this happens all the time. I see it all the time. In fact, at least once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, somebody comes in my memory lab and they go, hey, I'm trying to digitize this thing. And I go, no, because they're trying to force something unrolled, and you can hear it cracking, and then you can actually see the cracks happening. So out of necessity, because we took these giant long photographs back in the day, the panoramics, or we had long certificates, we rolled them and put them in a tube. You're supposed to unroll them eventually when you get home. That's the whole thing. It wasn't supposed to be like, you know what? Closet. So over time, as it's in this position and you have those temperature fluctuations, hopefully virtually you can see me doing my hand gesture. So you have these temperature fluctuations, and then you have the natural breakdown of the cells within the paper. It just forms that way. And then it starts getting brittle. And when you go, hey, I want to see great grandpa's World War I certificate, crack. So this is very similar to removing the funk, except water is our friend in this case. Now, this is really scary. I actually have scared people when I do this, and I love this. So we are going to put documents right next to water. By the way, this will be in your list, and I can send this to you. So we're going to use all these things here. And like I said, while I would love if you could use all acid-free items, in this case, an archival quality acrylic and all those fun things, it's already been in a closet for 100 years. Go forth. Distilled water. That is the most important thing you can use here. Do not use just your tap water, because this is Missouri. St. Louis has great water, by the way. History, though. But do not use tap water. Use distilled water. You can use, I like to use a Rubbermaid tote. So I use a version of this. I use one of those flat, long Rubbermaid totes. I put a baking rack in there. My daughter thought I was making cookies for her. It was the saddest thing. It's like, no, I'm not making cookies. I'm unrolling documents, honey. Then I made cookies later. So some people, for large ones, will do the double trash can scenario, or the trash can with the sealed thing here. I do not like this setup. You can try it if you want. Not a fan. I'm much more of a fan of this. Now, that does come problematic with super long documents, but you can find the things you need here. I put water here. I put a baking rack here, and then I will put spun polyester right here as a blotter layer. And then I will put, now this illustration is showing like a bunch of documents. They're insane, by the way. You're going to use one document at a time. Don't overdo it. You've got the time. So you put it in there like so. Realize I had an actual photo. You put it in here like so, and over time, and you can see the process, it will unroll itself. Now, sometimes it needs a little like help. So after you put it in there for 4 to 6 hours, you may want to put like an acrylic block on there to help it. And then eventually it will unroll itself. And eventually when you take it out of there, it will be done. Now, the only problem with this, got a crazy cat at home, it's going to run into this, and it's going to get your document all wet. You're going to be like, that guy told me to do bad things. I didn't tell you to do anything. So make sure you put this in an environment where it's not going to get knocked over. Make sure you don't do this and go to bed. So you actually need to be active in this. Every 4 hours, I know, every 4 hours, come in and check to make sure. You can oversaturate a document. And by the way, the water is never touching the actual document. It's just making an environment that's reintroducing humidity back to the document. So in my experience, most are done within 4 to 6 hours. Do not leave them overnight. So I'm the person who will press the red button out of fun. I did that with a document that meant nothing. And yeah, it was like saturated. It was too much. Like I said, some documents will unroll, some will not. Do not force it. If just check it. Okay, it's spreading a little more. And then as it gets to a point where it spreads, but it kind of still wants to roll up, put in some acrylic blocks on there. You can order these off Amazon. I'm not a plug for Amazon. I don't get any money. Make sure you're using that spun, the blotter paper we call it, that spun polyester underneath it. So in case any splashes come up, that's going to take all of it right there. And then put a layer on top of it. You can try to do multiple documents at once. Just don't do it. But you can if you want. See how it works for you. I wouldn't recommend it. So once it is relaxed, you can actually take it out of the chamber. Get you a sheet of plexiglass. Put it on your kitchen table or whatever table or somewhere that's a flat surface that's away from people and light and all that good stuff. And put some weights on it and let it sit there for about 24 hours. Not in the water container. Disclaimer. And you can always redo the process if necessary. It will work over time eventually. Whatever you do, like, all right, let's say you got a cousin coming over and you're going to frame this thing today. Don't decide to do it the day of. Please, give it some time. So photographs. Besides written documents, certificates, we're going to have tons of photographs. I hope you have tons of photographs. It's great. So remember, warm, damp environments equals mold. That's my math equation there. And that's why this is called basement. Environments that are too dry, brittle photos. So you got to be in that middle ground. Like I said, 68 degrees, 30 to 50% humidity. For photos, so I have been to archives where they actually put film and photos in a deep freeze state. And it was insane because I had to wear a parka in the middle of July. It was so fun. So cold is better for stuff that's color photos, especially. Make sure you're storing in acid-free, that museum quality sleeves. And I have some examples. Sorry, people on virtual, I don't have examples to show right here. And then make sure, the best thing you can do, get the negatives away from the prints because those are different situations and they have acid that can transfer from one to the other and you don't want to do that. So if you still have them in that sleeve from the little photo hut from 1986, go ahead and take those out for me if you don't mind. And remove the photos from whatever acidic device they have on. So if they are in those sleeves from the photo hut or whatever I don't even remember before Walgreens. There you go. Thank you. So always use buffer sheets when appropriate. Make sure you smell what you're putting them in. If they're in those classic sleeves from the 1980s, guess what? You need to get a little X-Acto knife and start cutting up. Sometimes it will stick so bad that it will peel a top layer of the photo. That means you have to make an educated guess. How much do you want this photo of? You can also put it in the humidification chamber and hope that will introduce enough humidity where you can pull it off easily. I have done this. I would never recommend a human to do it. I've used a heat gun before to help remove things. It works, but you're really taking a chance here. Don't take chances like me. So Some do's and don'ts. So if you're the type of person that just has to have them in a photo album, use those magnetic ones or the no sticks. Don't use any adhesive on your photos. By the way, don't laminate them either. I don't know when people started doing that, bless you. So people used to laminate photos thinking like this will preserve them forever. It actually destroys them. So eventually it will just destroy them. And then it actually creates a layer where it will deteriorate inside of the encapsulation. So don't do that. When you go home and you dig through all of those photos from Fox Photo, if you put paper clips on there, throw those in the trash. Paper clips rust. I see it all the time. You actually, we have a new fangled thing called a plastic clip. And I don't mean the ones from the 90s that we used in the office spaces that look like little planes. They are little like paper clips that are plastic. Use those. Also, if you have staples on documents, go ahead and take those out. You can just use plastic clips there. So here's the big thing. Some people will tell you not to write on the back of your photo. And I even put this here because it is advised that you do not write on the back of your photo. Problem is, one day the reaper's coming for all of us, right? So if you don't write something on the back of your photo and your children, your grandchildren pick it up, they're going to go, who are these people? And then the next thing, I'm at an antique store feeling bad because I see all these strangers' photos here. I'm like, oh no, I got to find these people. So you can write on the back of most modern day photos. And by modern day, I'm talking like 1950 on. If it is a Kodak photo, you can write on the back. But do not use that ballpoint pen. I will haunt you. So use what we call a Stabilo pencil. It's an archival quality pencil. I have one up here as an example. Sorry, once again, maybe I'll bring it over and go like this. You can also use archival quality pens. I wouldn't recommend a pen in this case because if you make a mistake, then you're stuck with it and we don't need to be writing on it a whole bunch. You can also just make copies or digitize. Yay, digitize. So you can also use what's called the B72. It is not a plane. It's an acrylic formula that we use in museums. We actually put a little dab of B72. It comes in a nail polish thing. Kids thought I was using nail polish. I'm like, no, Daz is doing archival stuff. Put it there, let it dry for 30 seconds, and then you can write on top of the layer. It doesn't damage the photo. It doesn't damage anything. You can actually just scrape that off in the future if you wanted to. So you do want to label them, but the industry would tell you probably not to. But as I said, all modern day photos, the Kodak era of photos, write on them. Do that. So, can anyone guess what's wrong with this photo here? All right, I'm going to call it humans. So, in my office, in my museums, I always had a sign above my desk, and it said the greatest danger to artifacts are humans. And what I meant was, so one of the museums I ran was a World War II submarine museum, and we still have World War II veterans still alive, and we have Korean veterans alive. They would come in there and see stuff from their period, and that's not an artifact to them. That's just stuff they played with, right? So the first thing they would do would run past me, and then they'd pick it up and go, look at this. That's me right there. Don't touch that photo. Stop touching the photos, all of you, please. So even when my mother does it. So for some reason, humans have to pick up a photo and go, look right there. Look right there. And then she'll see me looking at her, giving her the look of shame. And she'll be like, oh, why did I send you to museum school? Why? You didn't want me to live with you anymore. So don't touch your photos. If you do, you won't notice anything. But guess what? 20 years when you're getting it out and showing your grandchildren and embarrassing them, you're going to see fingerprints because the oils in your hands are going to get everywhere. So what can you do? Wear gloves. I am the type of person in my car right now, if we were to go out there, I don't want you to see the trash because I have 2 little kids. I have nitrile gloves all over station because if I find some kind of artifact or something, I'm whipping them out of my back pocket and I'm getting dirty. That's all time to do it. So if you see me at an antique store and I'm going through yearbooks with gloves on, I'm not insane. I'm about to digitize it. So don't expose them to UV. Photos hate ultraviolet light. So you do not want to do that. This is why, like I said, if you have grandma's, wedding photo from 1910 and it's sitting right next to your recliner, digitize it, make a copy, put the original somewhere. Don't display them. Display the copies of them, please. There's no reason to have all your original photos out. Just think about what would happen in cases. Also, consider offsite storage, a safety deposit box somewhere. You should have it somewhere. So I used to work in data archiving at IBM. We had a saying, if it's not in 3 places, it doesn't exist. So that means Have one here, have one in another branch, have one at home, you know. So if you don't have 3 copies of it somewhere, it doesn't exist. So I'm going to go over a couple of these. Now, I recognize you may not have old photos like this at home, but these are so amazingly cool, and I want to talk about them. So daguerreotypes. These are like the first photos that people were getting, and it's amazing, the whole process. It's basically a polished, it's a copper plate with silver on it, and they polish it until it was a mirror, and then they put this thing on there, the chemicals reacted, and you produce these amazing things. Now, if you ever come across these, they usually are encapsulated. They have to be encapsulated, as a matter of fact. Don't worry about sunlight with these. They don't care about sunlight at all. It doesn't impact them at all. Now, I'm not saying leave it in your backyard to see what happens just to spite me, but they have protective glass covers. They could not be reproduced, so these are one of a kind. Now, we have methods now. We can digitize these and make other ones. But do not remove the glass. Don't think like, oh, this glass is so dirty, I'm just going to take it apart and see what happens. Don't. Do not place in cold storage. They don't like that. Don't put them in sleeves. You don't need to do that. This is durable. The one thing I will recommend, the only thing that they hate is water. So don't freeze them. Don't put water on them. If they get flooded, you need to find help immediately as far with your house and your photos. So encapsulate them. You can buy polyethylene sleeves. You can buy plastic little, like an otter box for your daguerreotypes. That is the approach you want to take. Outside of that, these are really durable. Now, if you've never seen these before, they're beautiful. Like the colors, because it's basically like reverse imaging. But also, like, the angle is really interesting because you go like this and you can't see the photo anymore because it's the way that sun reacts, the light reacts to the polished metal. So the next step is ambrotypes. So these next phase, they're more durable, they're cheaper to make. You no longer have to wait and sit there for 1.5 to 2 minutes for it to be developed. It does it about 20 seconds. Similar, do not store these in plastic sleeves. Do not take these out of the glass. Do try to store them vertically. Don't store them flat. And same thing goes with daguerreotypes. Avoid wood cabinets for storage. And I say this in general because wood off gases. So metal off gases. It's really, pick your poison, really. I wouldn't do, for these in particular though, I would avoid wood. It doesn't react well to the actual type that took place. Now these, you'll probably start seeing these in your family treasures. If not, you'll see these around. Tintypes. So this is the next phase. And what I love about tintypes, they're way fast to make. They're cheaper for people to make, so you're going to see more of them. They're made of thin iron plates. They can be reproduced very easily. In fact, right now, we could all take a field trip and go get tintypes made with each other and have a really interesting class photo. That's what the extra 2 hours are for, so we can go get tintypes made. So treat these like a modern photo, acid-free cardstock to support them. And I pointed out here, this is how we would do this in museums. So if you want to put them in polyethylene sleeves, you should, but you need to support them because if they get bent, it's going to break the actual casing on them, which is the photo. So you want to support them as much as you can. You want them to be rigid. If they have dents in them from time, don't try to hammer it out because you want everything to be perfect. Nothing's perfect. You want to store them the same way, vertically if you can. Put some buffer sheets there because that will help in this case. Wear the gloves when you touch them, but use this cardstock. Do not write on the back of these. Don't use a grease pen or anything. Use the cardstock so that you can write what it is and the year there. Albumen prints. I have never seen one of these outside of maps before. So if you do see these, consider yourself very lucky. It was even though it says it's like 1851 and 1900s, you only see them occasionally like in research. So don't try to touch it at all. It is basically painted with eggshell and it is cracking. So you do not want to unroll them because you will crack them during that process. You do want to do the deflattening if you can because it will gradually take place. You want to try to get it flattened by not forcing it and then put it in some polyester envelopes. That will protect it the most. These are usually going to be sizable. If 11 by 17 or larger, I have not seen smaller ones. So I would say if it's good intact and not broken at all, you're probably fine. If it's something like that, it's very important to you, do consider a professional. I actually just bought a cyanotype not too long ago. So these are interesting because you do not want to use buffer sheets on these. So acid is part of the process of making these. So if you actually try to mitigate the acid, you can actually damage the photograph. So I hardly ever actually see these in photo form. I see these more in art form. So if you're dealing with textiles, like I said, you want to store these in metal cabinets because wood's going to off gas. Same advice I do for anything. Don't try to unroll them with force. You can try to introduce humidity to these. I would monitor it every 2 hours if I were you. It is usually a thin paper, so be very fragile. It's considered fragile. I see these a lot in the form of blueprints, old blueprints. So, but yes, these are still in use today, usually at some hipster art show that I go to. So, the nitty gritty, print photographs. These are what you're going to see commonplaces. So, the colors will eventually start to yellow over time. You'll start to see mold grow on these photos. So, I had lots of times people say, hey, I didn't think that was the color of my shirt back then. I was like, that's mold. Your shirt was a different color. Sorry. So use photo corners and the magnetic ones like I told. Also, as we talked about, you shouldn't write on them, but you should write on them. Just use the appropriate material. Don't touch them with your bare hands. Use either cotton gloves like I have there. I prefer nitrile. I'll explain that in a little bit. Negatives. Store these away from your photo prints. And by the way, you can digitize all of your negatives upstairs in the memory lab. It's very easy to do. Use acid-free polyethylene strip storage. So this is actually something we have that we get off of Amazon. Keep them in a cool, dry, dark environment. So these like to be colder. So definitely, if you have these in a 70-degree temperature thing, they will deteriorate faster than anything. Slides, similar, same setup. By the way, you can digitize these up in the memory lab. I have seen many people's vacations from the 60s. It's really cool. You can get slide storage boxes. You can get these slide seats. They're all acid-free. These you can find on Amazon. Polyethylene is your friend, acid-free papers. These are digitized so easily that I would recommend digitizing them as soon as you can. It doesn't. You just load up a little device, put them in there, scan it, same thing going forth. So, let's talk about the future. Old paper, your parchment, your vellum, will last 1,000 years if you protect it. Your 19th to 20th century paper, the best estimates with what we can do at home, not in professional setting, is 100 years. So think about that. Think about how you can make sure it reaches that. That's 100 years if you take care of it. 21st century paper, they're estimating 1,000 years on this. So it's not necessarily our problem right now, but it'll be somebody's problem in your family. So let's get a leg up on this stuff. So supplies that you can buy, Abby pin. So the Abby pin, I want to point out, sorry, virtual crowd, I'm walking over here. The Abby pin, as you see virtually, is what we test for acid. It will change colors if there's acid present. So if you're unsure if something has acidified, you can use the Abby pin. And there's different colors that they indicate. Depends on what manufacturer you buy it from. Plastic clips, that is actually the copyrighted spelling. So if you're looking for them, that's what it's called. Acid-free paper. Dehumidifier. So we don't just use them for children. Sometimes you got to take care of your environment. And make sure you get something to measure your environment with. Now, this list will be in your handout, so you don't have to write everything down. Also, do not worry about the name brand. Worry more about what it's made of. So Mylar is a fancy name that you can find in other forms. Polyethylene, polypropylene, PVC-free, all those fun things that you can find. Do some research. Don't go willy-nilly. If you have all the money and no care in the world, get your walk-in freezer, go into a website called Gaylord. That's where all the museum professionals buy their material from. I don't have that type of money, so I'm going to Amazon. I hate it, I know. Trust me. So let's talk about gloves. And I always like to introduce this. We're running out of time. Anybody recognize this movie?
Mhm.
What is it?
It's the one where they stole.
National Treasure. If
Yeah.
I had a prize, I would throw it at you right now.
Yep.
And I would hope you would catch it because that would be really mean if I hit you.
I love Nicolas Cage.
So he works for the National Archives in this movie, and they go around doing all this stuff. This is one of the only museum movies I've ever seen in my life where they're using gloves. And believe me, we all sit at home judging movies. We're like, oh, touching that with your bare hands. How dare you? So they will tell you to always wear gloves for everything. I will too. Do not wear these gloves. I have them over there. You know, if you look at them, they're really nice and clean. You know why? Because I won't use those. Here's why. They're bulky. You can't really feel all of your finger. You don't know where all your finger's going. So guess what? You're going to rip pages. You're going to rip photographs. You're going to rip all sorts of things. Also, eventually they get so funked up and they get just acid on them that you have to wash them all the time. I don't know if you know this, but there's no washing machine in the library. We don't got them. So I just don't have it. So what I do is I buy a box of nitrile gloves. I buy them by the hundreds and then 2 at a time. They cost about 2.5 cents a piece, a pair. If I throw 2.5 cents away because I'm protecting something, 2.5 cents, all right. It's probably cheaper than that, honestly. So the nitrile gloves go over your hands. You can feel every single digit. You don't have any kind of bulkiness. These are the ways. The only downside, your hands are going to get so sweaty, like weird sweaty. So, but that's the price you pay for preservation. So the answer is yes, use gloves. The only time you do not use gloves, by the way, if you're dealing with books. So if you're dealing with old books that are like vellum, you don't have to wear gloves. You do need to wash your hands though, all the time. You should wash your hands before touching anything if you don't have gloves. If you're going to not use gloves for books, sometimes the human oils actually help leather a little bit. Don't do that. Wash your hands, put on some nitrile gloves. They're going to get sweaty. Okay, so should I digitize my material? Yes, right now. Actually, after you rush home in traffic and don't get in an accident, gather all your stuff and make a memory lab appointment. You should digitize your material. There is a philosophical debate going on. If I have a digital copy of something, is it the same as the physical copy? Do we tie our memories to the physical copy or to the content that's in the item, right? So I don't know if anyone's ever seen a show like the Hoarder Show. They always make the people who like to hold on to things take photos of things and then they let them throw them away. Digitize your material, like digitize it, organize it, save it in multiple different formats. I promise you, no one is going to be upset that you lost that newspaper from the Post-Dispatch from 1939. Guess what? They're all digitized. I can show you 5 ways to get one right now. So digitize your material. Don't let that acid paper contaminate everything else. So digitize it all. Why should I digitize? Here's just a little breakdown of the life. You get a VHS at home, 10 to 25 years. That's how long they last. And that is in good condition. Now, of course, I find barn VHSs all the time that have been in a barn for 35 years. They play fine. There are decent ones. 8mm, 70 years. Photographs, usually depends on the paper, how many times someone touched it to point they were there. Cassette tapes, 30 years. Negatives, 50 years. These are under optimal conditions. Not museum level, but at what we can do at home. So that being said, with these under optimal conditions, how are you storing these at home? And if the answer is in a basement, I'm glad you're here. So why should I digitize? I don't know if y'all know this. I just had to tell my mother this. The last VCR was made in 2016. So you have VHSs at home, maybe like first birthday of somebody. How are you going to play them? You don't have a VHS, do you? You got a VHS. If you could donate that to the library, we'd really appreciate that. So as someone who has to buy VHS players, VCRs, I buy them for the memory lab. They are hard to find. I seriously mean, like, you don't mind donating it? I go to thrift stores. We have to scour eBay, Amazon. So I grew up during the VCR period. Never in my life did I ever think I would repair them for a living. I have 3 on my desk in my office right now. I have to figure out how to repair these. Back, it used to be some guy in my neighborhood just had a cardboard sign that said VCR repair. What happened to that guy? He passed on. That's what happened. So we're running out of time. I'm going to run through this, and then we're going to do questions real fast. Digitization tips. I can give you plenty of these. We also do classes called Intro to the Memory Lab where we talk about these. The main thing I want you to know, when you digitize material, be it photos, papers, slides, negatives, cassette tapes, VHS, whatever, you have a master copy and you have an access copy. So your master copy is going to be scanned at the highest quality that you can tolerate, that should be tolerated. And then your preservation or your access copy will be a JPEG so you can send to your friend over the internet. So have that copy that you can just easily give out to people, and then have your master copy somewhere else. Remember, have them in multiple spots. Make sure you put metadata or label them if you can, or else you'll forget, just like me. 3 different spots where it doesn't exist. So cloud storage, if you're okay with that. external hard drives, flash drives. You can even burn CD-ROMs. Those aren't going away for at least another 20 years. We can help you, by the way. So we have a memory lab. We digitize things there. We don't do it. You do it. It's a DIY place, but we help you. We tell you how to do it, and we give you instruction, and we have guides, all that. We're not going to leave you alone. We're there for you. You can make appointments. If you don't want to come in and do this, we actually check out scanners. So you can check out a scanner from us. It comes with a computer too. Digitize, get a USB drive. The memory lab, you can record oral history. So if writing history is hard, takes a long time, really easy to talk to each other. Come in, we have 1,000 questions for you to ask each other, record that history, save that file, pass it on to your family. So I was going to put more in here, but then I'm like, this is the perfect way to end this. The basement and the attic are not the best places to store materials. So please stop doing it. All right, so I'm going to take questions from both the virtual crowd and the in-person crowd. Since I've been showing a lot of preference to my in-person crowd because I've been showing demonstrations, I'm going to give the virtual folks the first shot at it. Do we have questions, virtual folks? You can freeze. Oh, so wait. Proper method would be to read the question to you, then repeat. So I had someone ask, can you freeze 8mm film with mold on it? You can. You sure can. Like, that won't hurt at all. Do the same process. Be a little more careful, because if you scratch it, it's not going to perform well. You can definitely freeze 8mm film. Oh, someone has 3 VCRs I can have. This is the best. We're all clapping for you. Yeah. Woo! Bring them into the library. We're at the Clark Family Branch. Thank you so much. Let's see if we have any questions here. Are there any safes that are recommended for keeping documents? So that's a really good question. I will tell you that the word fireproof safe means not so much in a fire. So lots of times, if anybody followed the California wildfire situation, lots of people thought they had their safes were fireproof. They are for a certain period of time, not for an extended burn. So you would have to check the rating, but I would say do your investigation. Offsite storage is the best, multiple copies. Can we get copies of the presentation? I normally don't give away copies, but if you email us and ask really nicely, I'll give you one. Also, if you donate VCRs. No, just kidding. Is there a virtual handout? There is. It was sent out before the program, but if you joined late or if it went to your spam, feel free to email us at genealogy@slcl.org, and we can get you a handout. What is and where can you get the spun polyester? So spun polyester is just polyester sheets. The fabric has been spun into a sheet form. It's loose, but it's a sheet still, so it allows permeable. No, can't even say that word. It allows things to breathe. So you can get that on Amazon. You can get that also at fabric stores. Might be able to get it at Joann for 40% off right now, 60%. What size should photos be scanned at? So it depends on how large your photo is. So if you have a small photo, scan it at least 600 dpi because you probably intend to enlarge it. So there is a point of like diminishing returns with scanning. If it is a small photo, do 600. Archival quality is really going to be 400 to 600. I would always do 600 if possible. If it's a regular size like 8x10, 300 will be fine. But sticking at 600 is a good safe area. Do I have slide scanners? We do in the memory lab. Yeah, make an appointment or call us and we'll help you make an appointment. After I put photos or documents in acid-free sleeves, how do I store the sleeves? 3-ring notebooks, plastic tubs, metal box. You can actually do all of those things. I would get an acid-free cardboard box and actually store them that way. You can get file folder, like acid-free file folder holders. Wow, that's so weird. You can also use the 3-ring binder, make sure it's acid-free. Wide variety. Usually you can buy a kit that will include all of the things you need to store them, but if you're doing just the album sheets, the polyethylene, the 3-ring binder, but just make sure it's acid-free. Okay, so that concludes our virtual. All right, in-person friends, what do we have?
Yes, I have what are they called? Architectural drawings.
Oh yeah.
Okay, that are more than 100 years old.
Really?
Early 1900s.
What are they of?
A church.
Oh, cool.
And what I want to know, I know you were talking about how to unroll. But
yeah.
These were all folded and put into a file. And so I want to undo them and be able to say, oh, this is the downstairs, or this was, whatever room,
So-
et cetera. Do I use the same process,
Yeah.
even though they're not?
You're going to want to introduce that, then unfold it, but you don't want to unfold it all at the same time.
I was
So
gonna say, and then I
like,
just
let's
do
say
it
it's like this.
one fold at a
do it
time.
at 4 to 6 hours and see how it hangs like this.
Okay,
And then don't leave it in there. Give it a breathing time. Come back 4 to 6 hours. See if you can get another section.
Okay.
And then eventually you're going to have the longest Rubbermaid tote in history. But seriously, just 4 to 6 hours at a time. You can do back-to-back 4 to 6 hour periods, but do not fall asleep. Just make sure you're coming in and getting coffee, taking a look at something, seeing how it goes there. Don't force it. Use the weights. And if it's a large thing, you can always use. You don't have to buy a giant sheet of plexiglass or acrylic. Just do a section at a time, and that should get you
I've got
there.
enough of them that investment like that is worth it.
I'd also
There
say,
are like 96 of them.
oh really?
Yeah.
If they're large, you may want to digitize them, and
Eventually,
I would. So you can't do that here because, well, depending on the size. If you gave me the size, I could figure it out. But we actually have a firm in town. It's one of the best in the country who does this type of work. If they're really valuable to you, I would recommend spending the money. Yeah.
Okay.
And so contact us if you need help.
Today, when we're storing things, and they're large, and it's a space issue. Is it better to roll them or fold them?
That's like, do I get hit with a baseball bat or?
Yeah.
I would say I would feel better about rolling them because I'm going to have less folds.
I was gonna say, I worry about breaking
So
the paper.
if you're going to roll them, you can buy an archival safe tube
Yes.
that's large, and so that you're reducing the actual amount. And so that's what we have to do sometimes. If it's something that's rolled up and we can't introduce that right away, we'll get a bigger tube in circumference, and then we'll just introduce that gradually over time while doing that process, so it kind of loosens it up and we're not shocking it too much at one time.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Other question? I'll come back to you. I'm going to get back. Oh, no, you go ahead.
I have some old letters that my dad sent when he was in the Navy in World War II on that
Is it onion paper?
airmail.
Oh, the V-mail.
Paper, yeah, what is that made out of and how is that?
That is very poor quality paper. It's not onion paper. So if you've seen onion skin paper, it's usually what a lot of military records were done on. It feels like onion skin. The airmail, the victory mail that I've seen, so it was usually written, microfilmed, sent over, printed. There you go. It's not the worst quality paper, but it's definitely. I've digitized like 50 or 60 of those letters. Digitize it. Digitize it before you do anything. Preservation wise, acid-free blotters. So take it out of the envelope. So you don't need to keep it in the envelope because that's probably going to be causing some deterioration on it. Separate those two. Get a file folder, an acid-free file folder like I have over here. Put the letter, unfold the letter. Do the humidification if you have to. Put the blotter sheet, then put the envelope, and then label the file folder. Try to separate them. Don't put too many in an envelope. You can put like 4 or 5 letters as long as you're putting buffers in there. But the buffer sheet's going to be really important. So they do sell like spray you can use. I don't like to use it. It's an acid preservation spray. It's like a DuPont product or a 3M. You can use that. It will neutralize the paper for now, but the damage is already done. The best thing you can do, and I know this sounds weird and it might be hard, digitize them, and then just put them away, store them in an acid-free box, blotter them out if you want to preserve the originals. So we have a lot of people now in the memory lab that are actually like digitizing and throwing those originals away. And I know that's a hard process, and I know, believe me, I know. But we're getting there. We're gonna make it one day. So up here.
I have a instruction booklet for an automobile which has numerous pictures in it, and it's kind of a glossy kind of paper.
Oh yeah.
And it got saturated with rainwater. And it's all stuck together. Is there any way to unstuck that or?
Yes and no. It'll take you a long, long time. So the first thing I would do is evaluate your time. How much is your time worth? Then I would open up eBay and see if you can find it on eBay and buy one that is not stuck together. But so in some cases, and this sounds really insane, and I'm not telling you to do this, I'm just telling you what we've done in the field. When we have those cases, we actually re-wet the item, and then we will use a micro scalpel to actually just kind of go through there. We have a micro spatula that we can go through as well. But the amount of times you're going to lose material. And I promise you, like the amount of effort and time, I wouldn't do this for something like that because it was mass produced and there are going to be other cases of it out there. I wouldn't dedicate that type of time unless you just really love that instruction manual and couldn't find it on eBay. Not saying like, now if your father gave it to you and there's like a huge memory there, like.
No.
Yeah.
No.
But
As a matter of fact, it's available online anyway, but it's just.
it's cool.
It's 500 pages of printing, and I just didn't want to do that. But yeah, okay.
Yeah, I would say,
It's as difficult as I thought it was.
You're going to have to get it re-wet. You're going to have to hope that it doesn't mold and it dries correctly. And then at the end of the time, you're going to spend hours upon hours. Whereas, you almost wonder like, might be worth finding on eBay for $34, and not diminishing the value at all. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So I've already done something wrong based on what we're talking about. Photo album, family photo album from the 1920s.
Ooh.
And it's this weird kind of, I don't know what the material is.
Black paper.
Yeah, but the
Oh.
outside of it is like this hard, thickish black,
Yes.
right? Well, it had mold on it, so I took white vinegar and to clean, right? I mean, and it worked.
Hey,
It worked. And I also started doing it to the top of the pages, right? And so one of them is quote unquote clean, right? But so, and inside that book, the other one I haven't touched, but inside that book are the family photos, and they have those corners that you're talking about in the book. So it's like the black pages,
Yeah.
black and white photos, they're all cornered, but it's like I haven't, it's like I don't want to touch it because this is, my great aunt, and I didn't, to remember, it's like I should probably take snaps of each page and just preserve that, and then pull each of those out and not store them in there anymore.
So I'm gonna restate the question. So we have a 1920s photo album that white vinegar on it, and this is a self-help group, so we're all admitting our sins. But it's okay right now. And then what are we going to do next? Because we have more that haven't been done. So we're here to talk about it. So don't just snap it because your phone's powerful, but you need to digitize it. You can digitize it in that format. Do that. I will tell you countless. So I had a Spanish-American War scrapbook, same type of format that I took those photos off as best as I could, the ones that would come off, but they had adhesive that had deteriorated over time, and the photos were just done. So the best case is scan the photos. So scan them as they are now. So there's also if you want to preserve it in the format that somebody laid it out, definitely take those photos, scan it in that format. So maybe there's a particular order for a reason. So preserve it in that format, and then I would start trying to get those photos off as best as you can once they are digitized in a very good format. So if you digitize them at 600 dpi, you have them all isolated there. The vinegar is okay. It's worse things have happened. You said it's clean now, which is great. And you probably killed the spores. I would try the freezing first and the vacuuming before I would go into that. But like I said, so just because they do it in professional levels doesn't mean we're doing wrong things, right? But the best thing that you can do in the scenario, digitize that stuff. You do want to get it off of those sheets, not only just because of the process itself, but because there could be writing on the back of there. And that's what's even more valuable sometimes is what's written on there. So I would digitize right now, then start trying your best to take them apart. Do the freeze method so you can just kill the active growth. If you want, use the vinegar. I know this is hard to say, but once you digitize them, you don't need the physicals anymore. And if anything, there's enough things in life where flooding, who knows, plane could fall out of the sky. Digitize them. Vinegar thing, I mean, at least you've killed the mold. Those photos are actually harder than we think. Are they like cardboard backed?
They're kind of like, so some of them are, I would like dry, they're kind of like curling, some of
Yeah.
them, right? Yeah, so and they don't have white borders around.
With decorative white borders?
Not decorative.
Because that's like the late 20s, early 30s.
So it's thicker than like, photographs from the 80s. It's different from that.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's like a thick cardstock kind of.
We
So
have some that way, but these I don't think are. Yeah, thick cardstock, yeah, but not super thick, not like quarter-inch thick.
So I would detach them, digitize first in that format, detach if you can. Get a micro spatula. You can get that actually from Gaylord, where the museum quality there. Kind of go through there to try to detach it as best as possible. Is there adhesive at all, or just corners?
Just the corners. And
So-
so I like one I took out, right, and it came out fairly easy. So they're not stuck to the.
That's great. You got really lucky there.
Okay.
So normally they would use glue back then.
And I don't think the mold has gotten out on the photo.
So one thing that I haven't mentioned that I should mention, since you're talking about working with mold, wear a mask for real. Don't forget to wear a mask. Wear gloves. Wear the nitrile gloves. Go forth. Digitize it the best you can. And even in a pinch, if you want to take a photo of it, just to have those photos, it's better than nothing. Take the photos out of that layout though, because that paper for sure is all acid up and it's going to start migrating onto it has already migrated on the photos. So take it out of there and start buffering as best as you can. Once you have it digitized in the format, one easier way to work with that, if you don't want to put too much like pressure on the photos, is just ripping the pages out, ripping the whole black sheet out, and then going forth like that. There's this desire, I know you want to keep the physical, but like it's not worth the cost, but digitizing it, so I would say do that. But that the vinegar stuff won't hurt it now. It's going to hurt it probably 10 years from now. So digitize it now while you can. Any other questions?
Can you just quickly say, so I have like letters that my dad wrote in World War II.
Yeah.
Probably 100 plus. Wow. And they're great. I mean, you can read them, but what should I do with them? Like,
So take them out. If the ones that I've always worked
they're
with,
in the envelope.
yeah. So take them out of the envelope. Get a file folder, just like a regular office file folder, but make sure it's acid free. I would organize them by year, month.
Which I did that.
Great.
Yeah.
So go ahead and put those. You can put a couple at a time in a manila folder. You can also put them in acid-free envelope enclosures, like I have there as well. You can get polyethylene bags if you want to go that route, so you can kind of see what they are. But organize them, put them in a acid-free file folder. Put them in a hanging folder if you can. If not, you can store them flat. I wouldn't recommend flat. I would try to keep them hanging.
Okay.
And then put them in a nice environment. Make sure it's an acid-free box or something that's not going to off-gas. So find a little storage solution there. I'm gonna go back on it. Digitize them. That's like if are they digitized?
No.
You gotta digitize them. Like anything can happen. Life's a gamble. And honestly, like you digitize them now, who knows like who in your family wants to see all that stuff, because it's amazing stuff. I could tell you some amazing stories that I saw and I've seen people lose these things, and it's heartbreaking. In the back there.
Yeah, just kind of a clarification on the old album. Do you have the capability of digitizing old photo albums?
So
Page by page as opposed
see,
to photograph by
in our situation with the question is, do we have the capability of digitizing old photo albums? So depending on the size, yes, but I would not recommend it in our memory lab because it's just not equipped for that. The device that we have that can handle large things isn't going to digitize it at a decent DPI. So I would just be honest with you and say no. What you could do if you have a photographer friend, set up a mount with a DSLR, and shoot them from the top there. That's going to be a better quality than what you're going to get right now in our lab. If it is something that's 11 by 17 or smaller, we can do it in our lab. But if you want to preserve the format it's in and the order that it's in, if it is bigger than that, not really the best place for it,
I was prepared to set something up with my iPhone.
You know, and I will say, these aren't bad ideas. The iPhone does scan at a high, it does digitize at a high rate. The problem is the distance, and that's where it gets into a problem. So it is better than nothing. But so when I digitize so I can get rid of the originals. And like that's my own cross the bear I had to work on many years to get rid of things. I digitize as high as possible so that I don't have to worry about the quality in the future. And I also state this, that I don't want to make it seem like you digitize once and then you're done, because you're not. So file formats change over time. You know, PDFs have had a good long run. JPEGs are going pretty strong, but down the road we may have PDF H, which, you know, is the best. You have to keep up on the standards. And in some cases, you know, the people who digitize things and they get these gimmicks from like Sharper Image and all these things, they digitize at a low rate and they don't realize this. They get rid of the original and the original is gone. I can upscale what you've digitized in a poor quality, but it will never be as good as just scanning the original in high quality. So like default to scanning in the best possible quality you can stand. Be it, I have somebody who insists on scanning in 3200 DPI. You want to know how long it takes to scan one photo? 27 minutes. I don't know who's going to last longer, the scanner or him. But I wouldn't go that far, but I would say scan the best you can. Do the phone just in case something happens. It never hurts. Or think about, I'm going to use my phone in a setup there to preserve the order that my ancestor wanted these things in. And then I'm going to tear it apart and I'm going to digitize each bit. And then I can make it in my own way. You could go to Shutterfly or whatever place you want to go to and make a new photo album with all those things in that order that you've just preserved in a format that you can share with people without worrying that it's going to deteriorate. So these are all solutions. All right. Joint one.
Okay, I was gonna say, how do you tell the difference between the daguerreotype, I can't even remember all of them, but there were like 4 different kinds?
Ambrotype, daguerreotype. So ambrotype and daguerreotype are very similar. They're going to be like enclosed in glass.
Right, I have some and they're different, so I don't know which.
So it's really going to be the plating. So they're very hard to tell the difference on. The easiest way that I can tell a daguerreotype away from an ambrotype is by doing the angle. So if you go like this and the photo just disappears, that is a polished metal sheet. That's
a what?
Polished metal sheet. So it is polished with silver. It basically, they had to shine it until it was a mirror. And when it goes like that, it's just because of the way the light reflecting, that is a daguerreotype. An ambrotype is not going to do that.
All right, well, some of them are on glass.
The first two, daguerreotype and ambrotype. Tintype is going to be mainly just tin. It's going to be metal.
Oh, okay.
And so that you'll be able to recognize it because one, you're touching it.
That's
if it's And so do not ever break those glass things open. Like there are chemicals in there. It also will destroy the photo. So if you ever come across,
you mean the actual picture? No,
yeah,
they're all in like velvet casing.
Oh yeah, so that you got the velvet casing. Yeah. So that's the easiest way, and you can always refer to us for more information. We can help you. And if you bring them in, we can also work to help identify them. All right. So we are like 20 minutes over. I am so sorry. I won't leave you hanging. I'll take your question. And I'm so sorry we're 20 minutes over, everybody. I'm gonna look through virtual real fast. Interfacing. Yes. Someone said is the spun polyester be interfacing? That is another term I've used for it, but just make sure it is polyester. The firm for the large format. Please email me at genealogy@slco.org and I'll help you there. If you are missing a flyer about the program, please email genealogy@slco.org. You're welcome for making these on Zoom. Thank you for attending. Yeah, you could absolutely use the Canon R5 in a setup to digitize photos. The raw files can be, you can convert the raw file into TIFF for sure. That is actually what a lot of professionals do. I can't really give you advice on that because I don't do that here, but you can find a guide to take care of that. So thank you very much, all my virtual folks. We're going to head out here. I'm going to call it. Have a great day.